Check, mic check. Nervous.
About what?
I haven't done an interview in a long time. I was telling my wife, at least it's like a good friend of mine. Yo, this is like the first interview I've done in like 2 years, by the way. Isn't that crazy? Yo, what's up? It's Logic here with Nick Huff Barili from hardknocktv. And you're watching the No Pressure interview. They say that boy done changed. He don't rap about his everyday life. He ain't the same. Goddamn, already had a hard life once. Am I supposed to recreate it every album for you cunts? Okay. You want to hear about my everyday? I wake up, I wake my son up, then I feed him and lead him into his car seat, drive up the street down to Target, don't do hard drugs or beat my wife, but the paparazzi still want to start shit. I don't say nothing, I leave them in the dark, bitch. Then I walk through the automatic doors, a couple fans spot me, I ain't trying to ignore, but I ain't on tour, so I head to aisle 4 because my drawers stink as fuck, and I need some new drawers. Yeah, that's my shit. That's Justin's shit too. Right? Justin loves that. Justin's
it's my favorite. It's
really? It's your favorite?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, for a lot of different reasons. I had a conversation with one of my favorite rappers, 3 Stacks, a while ago, where he talks about, you know, how hip hop grows old and him driving his kids to soccer practice or going to get a prostate and how people don't want to hear that anymore. He didn't think that's cool. He didn't feel like that's something that would fit into hip hop, being hip, being of the youth. And the third verse that you have on this track kind of exemplifies what he was talking about, because you're talking about your daily life as it is now.
Yeah.
Talk about a little bit about that. Hip hop growing older, you growing older, and finding a marriage between what Logic is today as a father and also as an artist, and how hip hop can grow to incorporate both of them. Because what we've seen a lot in hip hop is we have a lot of older artists talking about what they did in their youth, right? They're known for being a certain way, and then they kind of like, they try to recreate that throughout their life as they get older. But I am curious as to how hip hop grows up, so that people who are being fathers, who are doing whatever, have music that they can listen to that relates to their daily life.
Well, when you look at the Stones or the Beatles or any of those, you know, early on rock and roll people, they all got really old, you know, and rock and roll is always like, oh, it's the youth and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, mate, and all this shit. But it's like, dude, these dudes are in their 70s, still killing it, still doing great. So they're the first of their kind to reach that level. And now we have the Jay-Z's and the Eminems and Kanye's and Nas's and all these people that are there. I think the difference between our culture, though, and theirs is that we don't really love those people that are our senior. The youth isn't educated on it, right? So it's like in other genres of music, the young are taught about where the genre came from and typically are introduced to that type of music. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to like it, but I mean, everybody knows Mick Jagger, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody knows Paul McCartney, but why? Why is that, you know? Sure, a lot of people know Jay-Z, but who really knows Biggie and Tupac anymore, right? Like, crazy. But it's true. Like, Roddy Ricch said, he was like, I fucking came up on Thug and Future. That's not bad at all. Reality. It's just reality, man. So it's like, why would he try to pretend about pot? That's not what inspired him, and that's okay. That's fine. So I think when Andre said what he said, I understand what he's talking about. He's like, yeah, I don't want to fucking get a prostate exam and talk about some dude shoving his finger in my ass to feel my shit, and like, for sure. I will also disagree that it's all about how he says it, because maybe not that, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, talking about driving his children to school or picking them up from soccer practice, and then somehow, but then here's the funny part, in one way or another, it's like it always reminisces somewhere. Because a way that you could turn that into a dope rhyme is like, oh, I pick up my little girl. I remember first time I picked up like a bitch and smoked some weed or whatever. And now I'm dropping my kids off at soccer practice. But it's still always that reflective. So I think when you're older, you can still talk about what's going on, but it's still always very reflective. Depending on the type of artist you are. I've always been a reflective person, so that just is what it is. You listen to any album, and it's typically always about where I was, even if it was just yesterday. So I agree and totally disagree. I agree, because if he doesn't want to fucking do it, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, he already did it, so he deserves that. But we're selfish, right? So we want Andre to rap.
For sure.
That's what we want.
And I think for me, it's also not just wanting Andre to rap, but wanting hip hop to be able to grow older. Because it feels like we're talking about the difference between rock and roll and hip hop. It feels to me that one, the reverence for the people who kind of laid the Rakims of the world and like all.
But listen to what you're saying too. Sorry to interrupt you, but it's like, yo, popularity. It's like Rakim's like the greatest rapper ever. You know what I mean? Big Daddy Kane, like these fucking people are incredible. Nobody knows who the fuck these dudes are in this younger generation. I say that as no slight. I say that as fucking miseducation, uneducation, and true to form fucking ignorance. Everybody should know Rakim.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it should be the first thing that you're introduced to. Like, oh, you like this? Well, let me tell you where it came from, boy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's important. But why is it that Jay-Z is the biggest? Or Eminem, you know what I mean? Or like those guys are considered the biggest and oldest. I mean, no slight M, I don't mean it that way. I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? Like, of the generation. And I think it comes down to popularity. So, like, everyone knows, not everyone, but a lot of fucking people know Andre 3000, even in the youth, because of a Travis Scott. So it's like, these kids don't really know what the fuck's going on. The real ones do. The ones who, like ourselves, who came and didn't give a shit about what was popping or this or that. We wanted to know. Those people exist, and there's a lot of them that exist. But, you know, it's like, Andre has that luxury. Jay-Z has the luxury of everyone already knowing who you are.
Right.
So if you drop an album, everyone's going to hear it. And if you drop a crazy-ass fucking album like 444, produced executively by No ID, and it's all grown man shit. And you're talking about issues with your wife, and it's not just your wife, bro. It's fucking Beyonce. So it's like even bigger, and it's crazy, this whole fucking thing, and that's amazing. But there's only one Jay-Z, there's only one Eminem, you know what I mean? There's only a few of these guys, but there's a lot of motherfuckers, man, like R.A. the Rugged Man. Have you even listened to his last album? I told you, bro. You better listen to that shit.
No, we listened to it.
Oh, okay. It's incredible. Yeah. And it's like, this is a grown man talking about his daughter. Yeah. Like, the way R.A. the Rugged Man, yo, shout out to fucking R.A., dog. I always look at R.A. when he's on the mic like he's a piece of shit killer. Like, he's just fucking comes in and just whatever. He just splurges, and it's poetic and beautiful and unapologetic. But when I hear him talking about his daughter and sampling her voice and shit like that, I'm like, yo, this is incredible. And R.A. has a huge fan base. He really does. He can tour all over the world. There's people who love that genre of hip hop. He calls himself the boom bap rapper, and he doesn't give a fuck and all this shit, which I actually really love and appreciate about him. I think he's fantastic.
Slept on album for sure.
Yeah, but it's like, how come... Why can he drop an album that great where he goes in, he talks about this, I forget what the fucking song is called, it's so incredible, about this like school shooter kid who like goes in this ice cream shop or something, forget where it was, it's been a couple months since I listened to the album, and he's just shooting fucking people up, and like, it's like made me want to cry and throw up at the same time. Like, that's like incredible, it's beautiful, just the shit he talks about, how he describes certain things, and how he talks about growing up and getting older and the shit he used to do and where he is now. He's just, I mean, it's just fucking incredible. But why isn't that celebrated on the popular level? Like, I mean, I'm just being real. Such flows, such rhyme schemes, punchlines. I mean, he spent so much time and effort on the album. And I'm pretty sure he hit me up to be on the album, I think. And I was like going through some shit at the time. I couldn't even fucking do it. Now I like regret it, but not really, because I needed my own time. But we got to do something if you're watching this. We've been talking all the time, though, about like making it happen. That's one dude. Do you know how many other motherfuckers are out there making albums like that are incredible, still going, still making music? Why is it not celebrated? Why is it not blown up? Why is it not this? I don't know. I have no idea.
I think as a culture, we got to have that conversation.
It ain't happening. Because our culture is like 10 dudes.
Nah.
Yeah, it's like, I mean,
just look in this room. In this room, there's 3 out of the 4 people are probably relating to that Target song and DadBod more so than people are not. I just feel like all the people who grew up on hip hop now are in their 30s, 40s, 50s. Like, that's just the way the hip hop is.
Yeah, but
when we turn on the radio and we put on one of the popular playlists, our lifestyle is not being represented. So we either have to reminisce, or at some point we have to be able to listen to a 444 or Nas's last album, or, you know, there's a few where it's like, okay, now we're seeing what hip hop how hip hop grows up, how hip hop can look like in your 30s, your 40s, because a lot of the fan base that grew up on hip hop is at that age. That's why to me, DadBod is so important, because it's like, you talk about it. You're like, what? You want me to keep rapping about the life that I used to live, but I'm not living that life. And I feel like not enough artists are rapping about the life they're currently living.
Because it's boring.
But is it boring?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm talking about it.
Right.
In this album, in the whole album.
Hilarious. Like,
and that's the funny part about that. It's like, I could do it, right? But I'm also like, I don't want to. Like,
right.
I wanted to for this song, and I want it to be funny, and I want it to be smooth and chill and fun and a vibe and all this other shit. That's why I like love the line about Chance the Rapper. Like, I love Chance. And it's like, I bet you'd rap about the shit me and him rapped about if you had ever made it out, but you ain't never had the chance to become famous and rich and still faithful and a good father like Chance and a good husband and all this other shit. So when Chance the Rapper screams "I love my wife" on a song and hip hop goes, "What is wrong with you?" They need to be turning that on themselves and say, what is wrong with you that you're making fun? But see, that's the thing. It's not even malicious. I don't believe that people are genuinely angry at Chance the Rapper for being a good husband. I think they tell themselves, we tell ourselves, oh, we don't want to hear about that shit because we're so used to a certain thing. And then even on top of that, it's like, it's low-hanging fruit. You know, he talks about his wife a couple times on an album, and you do that. You know, I talk about being proud to be black a couple times on one album, you know, up to that date. And it's a thing. Like, okay, cool. Who gives a fuck? You know what I mean? That shit's so over with. But that's why I've always really respected Chance and all the things that he talks about and what he stands up for and all this other shit. But we're just in this day and age where it's like, people don't want to hear that shit. But there are people who do. And those people that do are in the arenas that me and Chance go to perform. The people who claim they don't and don't give a fuck and all this are not even in our demographic anymore and are on the internet. But we're so popular and famous that you have to commentate because we're just in the conversation. It just is what it is. You love us or hate us, you have to talk about us because when we drop something. I've seen people review like the No Pressure Freestyle, which are some of the, not the craziest, but fucking some of the craziest lyrics on this album. You know, and I've seen people be like, he's not even saying anything. He's just rapping a bunch of words and blah, blah, blah. And then I'll see people in the comments be like, bro, do you understand what he just said? He just said diacritical lifestyles. I'm always overseas. Do you even understand what that is? And people are going, a diacritical character is a squiggly line for accents in foreign language. And they're like, so for example, like français, the character is called a diacritical character, overseas. So he's saying he's overseas, motherfucker. He just broke. And then they don't respond. They don't do another video that says, actually there was like 89 triple on, double on, quadruple entendres in here that I didn't catch the first time. So nobody does that. Nobody gives a fuck. You say your thing. But then there's also the people who really care. And those are the people that me and Chance and Cole and Kendrick and everyone, any artist, make the music for. We make the music for the person who's going to pull apart every little thing because they are a fanatic.
We're in a digital age where people want attention, and if they can't get positive attention, they're going to get negative attention. Because what's valued at the height is attention. It doesn't even matter how you're getting attention now. Yeah. It's like, all it matters is attention. If it's not attention from the artist, it's attention from other people responding to the negative attention.
I've upgraded while they waited. Will they love it? Will they hate it? Who gives a fuck though? Rappers claiming they next. This shit is cutthroat. That was me. I've upgraded while they waited. Will they love it? Will they hate it? Please, this is so important to me. Oh my God. And then you just realize, man, this shit don't matter, dog. And if you listen to the whole tone, you know, chilling with the homies at the crib, bumping Pac Div. This is the life I live. You ain't know about it. You don't know I'm in my house listening to Pac Div, you know? And hit the studio with no ID, make a couple platinum records in that bitch, and then I dip about it. My whole life has become more calm, more than ever. And so that particular line was like, damn, I was really on some, like, I cared what everybody think. I needed it. Will they love it? Will they hate it? Will they love me? Will they? And then it's just like, man, damn, nigga, love yourself. Like, for real. Like, shit, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? So, yeah. it's kind of a little Slim Shady-ish, right? A little bit, especially this part in the second verse where I'm like, I used to be all about to be rabbits and Mackay Pfeiffers, grip the mic and murder you like a pro-lifer, but I'm done now. I got a son now. Fuck the rap game. I'm done now. Which also alludes to the retirement as well. I always love, and I'm just gonna say this because it probably already exists, where people will try to. They actually don't understand how deep something is or what I actually meant by it, and they'll be like, pro-life, you idiot. You can't murder. They're pro-life. They're not pro-choice because the pro-choice would kill the fetus or the blah. I'm talking about the people who claim to be pro-life who throw vats of acid on doctors at the clinic or throw gasoline and then burn them on fire to kind of show. Obviously, first and foremost, these are extremists, right? There's extremists to every side, but it's like, come on. So that's the funny line there. It's like, I'll murder you like a pro-lifer, which, if anything, is actually extra vicious and disgusting if you're from the extremist point of view. But the whole album is just full of lines like that really mean something else or mean this, or like, you got to do your homework. Like, you really got to do your homework, and I think you'll appreciate it.
There's layers to it, right? There's the first listen and what you get from it, second listen, third listen, and then if you really care about words, then it's like, oh, double entendres, oh, he's referencing this, oh, he just referenced another rhyme that he had in a previous album or a previous mixtape, or now he's adding a layer to something that he said before.
I mean, I went in, bro, like, I mean, shit, even on Growing Pains 4, I say, on that note, I keep it G, like track 4, Kicking the Door by Notorious B.I.G., and if you don't believe me, look up that punchline, or look it up, I promise you'll find the key to that punchline. The reason that shit is so deep to me is I literally had to go study what Biggie lines were in the key of G, right? So it's like, okay, you have your A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? I had to find which keys or what and all this other shit. Then I had to, because I knew it was going to be on that note, I keep it G, right? So I keep it G, so that's right there is the punchline. On that note, I keep it G. That's the punchline, which is very elementary, because that's how I wrote it. On that note, I keep it G. But then I was like, how can I go Inception layers deeper than just on that note, I keep it G? That's like some shit I'd say on my last album for fun and just fuck off, right? But I'm like, on that note, I keep it G, like track 4. So if I go to Biggie's album, Believe It Was Life After Death, yep. Track 4 is Kicking the Door. So then your rhyme scheme. So I just started with On That Note, I Keep It G, and then we go in like track 4, Kicking the Door by Notorious B.I.G., then linking the notes. And if you don't believe me, look it up. I promise you'll find the key to the punchline, because the key is the note of G. And as I say it, it might be like a magic trick where it's like, well, that's not that deep. Well, you do it. Motherfucker, that was difficult. I was in the studio looking shit up. I was going through all types of shit, figuring it out. So that was fun. But that's what this whole album was. And that's why the whole album was just, it was like very difficult and a blast to make at the same time. That's what was so cool about it.
That actually happened, or is that just a compilation of different experiences that you kind of put into the trip to Target? Or?
Yeah, it's kind of like it is a general, but it's like any artist. Any artist's real life is extremely boring and mundane. Nothing ever really exciting happens except for fleeting moments of like jumping on a jet and just like, but then you're on a jet, you did it once and then you do it a million times, or you go to Vegas once and then you go a million times, and it's just like, it's not really that deep, you know what I mean? So to the average listener or person, like changing my baby's diapers is probably boring as fuck. To me, I love it because it's a great time, but also it's like, okay, you want me to really rap about my everyday life? So that's the best part and the best way I could have put that together, because it's all true things that didn't happen sequentially, right? But they, you put it together and it's great. But if you really want to hear about my everyday life, like, it's very boring.
Yeah, I love that. In DadBod, we get to see the other side, because a lot of times we don't get to see the other side of artists, right? Like, maybe we'll see it on some Instagram, maybe people show a little bit more of a personal side, but to see it on a rap, where it's just kind of like, because even with like Jay's last album, it's still an opera, right? Because it's, people know a lot of the references that he's talking about, things that have played out in the media and stuff, but this is like, I'm going to Target. Like, you want to hear about like me being knee deep in shit? Like, that's more of my life now than me studying rappers.
The B-Rabbits and the Mackay Pfeiffers and the 8 Miles and the freestyles and all this other shit. But it's like, I've already done that. I'm a master of my craft. Like, I've done it, And I say that because it's very true So I've done it. It doesn't do anything for me either. Like, you know, if you guys want me to try to keep recreating, you know, and people will say things like, no, don't recreate, like, do something new. But then you do something totally new and then they don't like it, you know, typically. Like me doing like Supermarket. Like, I had a blast and I wrote a whole album that had to do with a book, and that circle didn't really like it. But then I go out, people have literally come to me and been like, yo, that's my favorite album you ever did, because I don't even really listen to rap, but I like your rap shit. It's cool, but like to hear you sing those songs or do this. And that was my first thing. The crazy thing about Supermarket is that's the first, was when I learned to sing, when I was growing confidence in singing, playing the piano, playing instruments, doing all these things for the first time. Take any artist and go to their first time at 12 or 15 or this or that, package it together as an album and put it out in the fucking world and see how people would feel about it. So I had the balls to do it, and I'm glad that I did. And it also is a reference point to be able to go, wow, look how far I've come in the future, or whatever the case may be. So, but you have to, if you're going to be honest, you know, talk about the negative, because and it is something that it does bother me to know that somebody could be like, oh, he's in his feelings, or damn, he just can't get over it, or let it go, what people say about him, or this or that. That's not true. It's a part of my everyday life, so I deal with it and I talk about it. And I don't just talk about, like, I could come in here and be like, oh yeah, everything's great, fucking album, blah, 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 I did this, I'm a genius, I'm fantastic, all right, peace, I'm out. Or I could be honest, open, vulnerable. I could do all these things to let the person out there know that there's really no difference between me and them except for the time that I've put into my craft to then express those feelings back to the person who's listening. That's why I would say maybe 98% of the artists, big artists that I love and am friends with or talk to, have never been 100% honest with me. When I'm like, man, how do you feel about social media? They're like, yeah, you know, it's fucked up. It's fucked up. People be saying shit, that's fucked up, but like, it don't matter, right? And it eats away at them, and they're depressed, and they hide it and behind drugs or alcohol or Instagram, and they pretend it doesn't hurt them. And I'm over here, I'm like, let's talk about it because it'll make us feel better. But they know, nah, I can't do that. People look at me like a bitch, you know, talking about depression, anxiety and shit. People, that shit ain't real. And they'll really say these things, you know, and people will really claim that shit too. People playing the depression card too much and the this and the that and all this shit. And I'm just like, well, why you think motherfuckers are depressed? They feel like they can't talk or be open about it. And then the people who are listening are like, I don't want to hear about that shit, because they're low-key depressed but keeping that shit down, so they just want to hear other music that's going to distract them. That's why I love the Kid Cudis, you know, and the Coles and the people who really go in and talk about shit. This
has happened for a long time, but we idolize people who are famous. And a lot of times what comes with that is the human aspect of it gets stripped down. And it's like, well, you're making millions of dollars. You got a big house in Calabasas. You're selling out stadiums. How can you look in the mirror and have negative thoughts? Like, people
because of the person who says that. That's what it is. How can you be unhappy is the thing that makes you unhappy. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like the constant critiques, the constant this, the constant, you're not good enough. But to accept you're not good enough to certain people and move past it is the way you move forward. So for me, that's why not being on social media makes me happier. You know, off the internet is when I'm at my happiest. You know, scrolling so much, my thumb fucked up. We call that carpal tunnel vision. I really had an issue with my thumb, and it was fucked up, and I was in pain because I was constantly going like this all day long. So knowing that not everybody's gonna like you is one thing, but going on the internet or something and just seeing it like magnified sucks. Even though you see it magnified through millions of comments of love, right? So it's a very difficult thing, but that's why you just take it out. Take it out and you'll be happier. There's no problem knowing people don't like me, you know, because there's different like eras of critique that I've gone through, right? Critique of friends when you're making music, and it's hard, but you got to listen to them to get better. And then you put out your first song, and then it's critiques in the blogs, and it hurts, and you don't want to read it, but you have to. You got to get better. And then you get bigger, and then there's critiques on website hosting, mixtape hosting websites, but it's okay, you get bigger. And then there's critiques from Rolling Stone and Complex and XXL and people who really have dedicated their lives to writing, whether they went to school or they just did it themselves, and they put in 10,000 hours to be a great writer and to do it without bias and just to be honest. Whether they shred you and fucking rip your asshole apart or they praise you, and you have to learn to take that. What I don't think any artist of this era was prepared for is the critique of millions of people at the exact same time, immediately and instantly as soon as you release something. With those other people, they had time to digest it. People who really care. And now the journalist is dead. You know, the one listen reviews, we have to be the first on this. And like, dude, look, even in major magazines and shit. And when I read, I've realized that we've reprogrammed our brain. Go look at any article, anything, ad. Barely a paragraph, ad, and you learn to scroll past that, but your brain doesn't. Your brain is scrolling past it, but it's looking at the come to DeVry University and this and that and blah, blah, blah and all this shit. And it's really actually sickening. So it's all more so about money and rather than how we truly consume art and music. That's why I love our interviews because, yeah, you're my friend, but you do ask me hard questions. You know, you may bring up my past marriage, but you do it with taste. It's not like, so when you got divorced and blah, 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 and all this shit, it's just crazy, man. Like and that's why I appreciate it. And that's why I sit down with people like you, different people that will actually ask me real questions and then I can talk with that. It's not the tabloid show and the, yo, but what's up? What's up with you and Joyner though? Fuck Joyner. No, I'm just kidding. I love you, bro. But no, what I'm saying is like, people will ask dumbass questions like that, you know?
I think you bring up an interesting point, which is the way the media makes money now, right?
Yeah.
The way the media makes money now is clicks on ads. So now everything's become clickbait because it's like, well, if you
you're not buying the magazine anymore.
No, you're not buying the magazine. You're not making your money off someone's thing that they've taken a long time to curate and then they're presenting to the world. Now it's like, how many people can we get to come onto this site so they can see 7 ads so that I can make my money so that the website can keep going forward.
And if you do a review a month after the project is released, which I think is a very good way to do it, 2-3 weeks, a month, it's old news. You know, literally hundreds of albums have been released since you did that. So, I mean, I get it. That's why I'm not mad at nobody. I just take myself out of it. Mm-hmm. It's that simple. To find happiness, you just find your own place. So to know that people love me and are going crazy for me right now, every second, and to know that people are talking shit about me right now, it's okay because I don't give a fuck.
You just remove yourself from the equation.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And
because they're going to talk to each other regardless of whether you're there or not. So
yeah, they literally have, and I've seen it. It is funny, though, because you give them less ammo. Because if you're not really doing anything, they don't really have much to talk about, and then it really gets tabloidy. Like, you know, I see people have talked about, like, a post that somebody else did that I was in for 2 seconds, and it's like a whole thing, you know what I mean? I saw, there was this thing on Reddit, and this was months ago, and I had broken my silence and I was pretty drunk. So I was like, went on my Reddit for fun. And I was like, I just want to let you guys know that I love you and that my son has been born and blah, blah, blah. And I just did this nice little thing just for my fans or whatever. And then one of the hip hop blogs or, you know, with the chick who's like talking and she's like, yeah, Logic known as Sir Robert Hall, blah, 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 blah. Went to, and it's like, you don't even know that's me, dog. It's not verified. You can't say that it's me. Like, it's bullshit. You got lucky. Because it was. I could have lied and be like, it wasn't me, you're an idiot. And you could have never proven that and you would look stupid, but I'm not into the business of bullshit like they are. But it's like for you to do an entire write-up about something you can't prove is me, like, whoa. Let's talk about news first. You can't prove that was me. Do you know how many times people fake being me all over the place all the time? But it's literally like 30 seconds. They're like, you know, oh yeah, Logic came back to let the world know he has a baby boy and blah, 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 and with his new wife. And since his last divorce and everything that he went through with the divorce, and the couple said, and they did a statement together, and then it just becomes about my divorce from 2 years ago. And I'm like, yo, this is what happened to rap. You know what I mean? Like, what is this? It's crazy. But I just say all this to say, like, you go away from it, doesn't matter. If you legitimately, but you have to have the willpower. It's very difficult. It is hard. It's hard, man. Because the reason it's so hard is because it's like a drug, and it's something that the same internet that I fell in love with and how I would engage with fans is not the same that it is today. So for me spending a decade to go on my phone and talk to fans, but I can't do that anymore because when I go on my phone, I've hit a level that's just loved or hated. And so I could literally, I mean, it happens all the time. It's like I go and I'll be like, I love you guys. And somebody's like, faggot. And I'm just like, yo, how can you just say this and nothing happens to you? Like, that's crazy to me, dog. And they'll shit on me, and it's gonna happen. They're gonna call my baby ugly, and they've already shit on my wife and made accounts and called her ugly, you know, and this whole thing. It's like, it's crazy. It's insane. But if you just put it out of your mind, it's okay. So that's why I went to this happy place. Not to sit here and talk too much about negative shit, but this is why I'm leaving.
5 hooks.
Yeah.
There's only 5 hooks on the whole album. The song's called 5 Hooks. Tell me about it.
Okay, so originally there was another sample on here that didn't get cleared, but I won't get into which one it was. And you can actually hear me at the end of DadBod talking about it, which I thought was really fun. And like so honest and real, fucking calling Six's phone type shit. And sometimes it forces you to be more creative. Sometimes you get a better result out of it. In this case, I think we got a better result. I do. And so he had this Toro y Moi sample he played me, and then I chopped the shit up on my MPC, and then we added drums, and then I added these other drums, and I just went in, and I was just, this is what you all been waiting for, ain't it? You know, this no pressure shit kind of got us reacquainted. It's like, this is what the real fans have wanted. And if you say this isn't what you want, then you're an idiot. Like, this is it. This is the thing that I haven't wanted to do for so many years because I just wanted to relax and have a good time and make some money and tour and have fun. And I put my everything into this. So it's what y'all been waiting for, ain't it? Another Kanye reference, you know? That second half, bro, is crazy. Do you have any lines from there?
I do, but it's not from the switch up. It's a more personal line, which is sometimes I tell the voice in my head to shut the fuck up.
Which is abruptly cut off by the transition, and off beat too. If you really listen to it, it cuts off beat, and the fuck up never finishes. I tell the voice in my head to shut the fuck up, and then it's like almost finding clarity in a way. I mean, that's true, man. We all have the voice in our head. Some days I'm happy, some days I'm fucked up, some days I tell the voice in my head to shut the fuck up. It's probably one of the most human raps I've ever said, ever. It's beyond simple, and everyone's felt that way. So yeah, it's really not that deep. It's just that's what it is. But then that switch up though. Motivated by paper and pussy, always been a passion. Whipping that Chevrolet Impala, my speakers blasting. Hungry like I'm fasting. Who the illest? Just ask him. Louis Vuitton rhyme, relevant and old fashioned. Like we always do at this time. And I love this because that's like another Kanye reference, right? On both sides. Like we always do with this, but then I go into the all I do. Like we always do at this time, homie. I go for mine, homie. I got to shine, homie. All I do is grind, homie. All I do is rhyme. I provide for mine, homie. I started with just $1 and a dream like Jermaine in 09. Know what I mean? Fresh on the scene like a first take. I felt dropped my first tape and felt the earth shake. 2011, whatever the fuck. That shit is like so real. I've referenced J. Cole like 3 times on this album because he's my favorite. And then Kanye, of course. And that's the one thing I never gave a fuck about. People could be like, you're using a Kanye line here or similar drums over there or this. To me, it is no different from the Outkast sample or any artist, all of us, Kanye especially, who taught me how to sample shit, taking from other things. Kanye's taking old lines, he's taking this, he's doing all this other shit. You know that, what's the joint that he did with, is Tiana Taylor in it? I think so. Doom, 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 doom. What the fuck is that song called? I can't think of that. Fade. That's like a fucking 80s or 90s Chicago house. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? And that's one thing that I love. Dude, do you know how many people aren't gonna know, for real, the Spodioti horns, or the Erykah Badu shit, or the Outkast shit, or the homage that I'm paying in certain things? People who haven't listened to Graduation, for real, it exists. Like, people might look at this and be like, it exists, bro. There are millions and millions of fucking people who have no idea. It's like when Kanye was walking outside of something and there's this old white lady and he was in another country and she was like, who are you? What is this? And he goes, I'm Kanye West. And then he goes inside. It's like, so like not everybody knows who you are, you know? And I completely accept that. But yeah, going into the, you know, like we always do at this time and all that other shit. My favorite line, I think, on the whole album, I mean, yeah, we should talk about it. So obviously my album leaked, right? But it didn't really. It was just like 30 songs of the thousands and thousands and thousands of songs that I have. And I just heard about it. Homie told me about it, and he was like, oh man, you might want to know that some shit got leaked and blah, blah, blah. And I literally was like, what songs? And I was like, oh. I was like, I don't give a fuck. Because it was difficult to deal with, especially just initially. Because I was like, damn, I'm really like at that level where motherfuckers is hijacking shit and figuring it out, and I had to find out what happened, and I did, and it wasn't really that deep. But when you really like step back and go, it doesn't matter. People give a fuck about me enough to share my link. Like it was funny because a homie was like, yeah, I was online and somebody was like, man, y'all really trying to think we give a fuck about a Logic album leak? And he said like 2 posts later, they was like, yo, you got that Logic album leak? It was really funny. And then I had heard that a bunch of fans were like, this is it. If this is what he does, it's going to be amazing. If he selects these certain songs and this and all this other shit. I'm just like, man, a majority of the songs y'all got, I was just in the studio having fun. Like I was just fucking off, you know what I mean? Just like doing my thing or whatever. And a few of them they got, but it's like, but they didn't get shit. You guys got the demoist shit ass version of what was to be this opus for me, you know? And that's why I love the line, who gives a fuck about the leak when you got the well? Like, I got it all. I got it. Okay, yeah, you took some crumbs. Go ahead. I'm sitting here on all this bread. You know what I mean? Like, so, and then, yeah, who gives a fuck about the leak when you got the well? Watch me excel, propelled, and ghost the fuck out like Dave Chappelle. Oh, you the illest? Pray tell. I'm like God before Lucifer fell. I raised hell. One of the best punchlines I think I've ever written, dog. And that was fun. That was a fun one. And I just happened to just make that randomly. Like that whole song, it just came kind of at like a last minute, like you never know when shit's gonna happen. Five Hooks was like a really freeing, just super fun record where I was rapping. I love it. Let's take a trip down memory lane, you know, what the fuck is it? Let's take a trip down memory lane. Logic arrived and he fucked up the game, simple and plain. Never scared to do it different. No 2 albums sound the same. I got tracks with Wu-Tang, 2 Chainz, Killer Mike and Gucci Mane, from rap shit to the trap shit. I do it with no shame. Spit the illest yoga flame. I was fly before the fame, before I could afford a plane. Like what? Touchdown like Notre Dame. Like just the whole. That was like one of my favorite parts of the album. That switch up and then going into that. All I see is College Park. All I see is like Welcome to Forever, Undeniable Times. Like when I was writing that.